in the last video I talked about breeding for profit. I figured I'd cover it in this video real quick, and this will be short and sweet. I'm going to get straight to the point. It's been discussed by other people on other channels. If you haven't watched any of them, and this is the first time you've ever heard of breeding for profit, welcome aboard. Quick, easy explanation of how to get set up, standard costs, what it'll cost you, and essentially what you can make. And it's not going to be like, well, I'm making, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this. This is essentially for people that are looking to pay for the hobby itself. If you want to get more in depth, you can run more tanks, you can get a lot more sophisticated with it, and you can make more money. I won't say you'll get rich by any means doing this, but it's definitely fun, and you can earn some money in the process on top of your regular job or your regular source of income. So this is our Endler tank. We started off with 2 pairs of Endlers, 2 males, 2 females, about 4 months ago. And within 4 months, this is what it's become. There's over 100 of them in here. Startup costs, not including the stand. The stand cost, because I built it myself, about 30 bucks, and it holds 2 tanks, 155, and it'll hold a 40 on the bottom. That was about $30. We run 2 sponge filters simply because of airflow and water flow and water control. Quick explanation: this one sucks in that way, this one sucks in that way, one blows up this way, one blows up that way. So everything is getting cycled in the tank, all the water, which is what we want. It's good water flow. These will run you probably 20 bucks. So you're up to 50 without a tank. If you go wait for the Petco $1 per gallon sale, or track down on Craigslist, this is a 55-gallon tank. Petco, the $1 per gallon sale, it's actually half off. This one will run you about $60. Every now and then you'll score a deal on Craigslist where you'll pick it up for 40 bucks or 50 bucks or 55 bucks. Average though, if you buy it brand new, $60 if you wait for the sale. So you're already up to 110. 300 watt heater is what we run in there. That'll run you about 30 bucks. You're up to 140. You're gonna need an air pump for these guys. That'll be probably another 40 bucks. So you're up to 180. The light up here, we got it from Home Depot. It's an LED, 25 bucks. So you're up to about $205. Now that doesn't include the cost of the airlines, or just your odds and ends like a thermometer, because you'll want to get one of those. I mean, all in all told, you'll probably end up spending right around $220, $230 to get it set up the way that this one is set up. You can start smaller, of course. You can pick up 20-gallon tanks for a fraction of the cost. You can usually find them for 10 or 20 bucks on Craigslist. $1 per gallon sale, $20. You only would really need 1 sponge filter in that tank. So I mean, you're cutting that cost down. A much smaller heater, cutting that cost down. Much smaller light, cutting that cost down. So there's ways to save. We already have a fish room established. We've already got 355s going at the moment. One's got a turtle in it, 2 of them have fish. There's a 40-gallon, a 60-gallon, a 72-gallon. So we have some larger tanks. Plus we're getting a larger tank for down here as well, which will be another 40. So for us to do this, it made the most sense. For us, we started off with 2 pairs, like I said, about 4 months ago. We have over 100 in here now. If you do it right, you do the water changes in here, you take care of them, you feed them, and you do what they need. You take care of what they need, keep their water clean, keep them well fed. They will spawn for you like crazy. Once a month, the females can spawn. When you have several females, you get several spawns. And we're at that point now where we've got enough females that have grown up to where we can get probably 4 or 5 spawns out of these guys per month. The bigger ones can drop like 30 to 40 fry at a time. Smaller ones are only going to drop 10 to 15 or so. As they get bigger, they have more clutches, they're going to release more fry. So you'll have to look into that too, because you don't want to overpopulate your tank. But once you get enough full-grown females, you can easily have 300 to 400 fry per month in a matter of about 6 to 7 months. It takes a while to get it going. Once it's going, however, you can average $100 a month selling these guys. If you hit the fish swaps, the auctions, aqua bids, things like that, You can sell them as pairs or trios. You can make a little bit more money than your local fish store. Our local fish store pays us about $2 per pair of them. At auctions and swaps, you can get anywhere between $6 to $10 depending on auctions. Can go as high as $10 a piece for a pair, depending on who's interested. If there's people there for live bears that are into endlers and guppies and such. Auctions usually it's like $6 to $7 a pair. Trios usually would go for like $10 a pair or a trio. So what you can do essentially is get 2 pairs, which is what we started off with. Wait a few months, and even now if we wanted to, we could go in here and pick out some of the males and bring them down. We're gonna of course wait a little bit longer, and we're gonna grow them out some more. We have tons of fry in here now. We have quite a few that are almost a completely adult size right now that have already spawned. Plus we have some that are adult size, completely full grown, that are spawning regularly. So at any given point in time, you could easily have 100 of these per month to sell, or plus. And like I said, for a pair of them, you get $2. 100 of them is 50 pairs, $2. You know, for 50 pairs, that equals $100 a month. You could figure this way too. You'll get $1 a fish doing it at your local fish store. Average, it's $100 a month. If you go to the auctions and the swaps, you can make a little bit more money. Within a 6-month period, you can make about $1,000. Seems like a lot of money, of course, but you have to take in consideration your cost. This has been covered on other channels numerous times. If you haven't heard any of this information before, welcome aboard. Welcome to the wonderful world of breeding, and a lot of work, but also a lot of reward. You're not going to get rich by any means doing this, but it will definitely pay for your hobby and then some. If you're looking into getting into other types of fish, within a year you can easily expand and get a couple more tanks, full setups at that, and then continue to choose from there what you want to breed, or what you want to continue going forward with. At some point in time, we are going to toss some bristlenose in here as well, because the endlers and the bristlenose will be perfectly fine together, and we can breed them together. It's 155 gallon tank, and we just got to throw some caves down in the bottom, and we have 2 fish in 1 tank spawning. The bristlenose we have some albinos, we also have super reds. Depending on which variety you have, depends on how much money you can get from them. They don't spawn in such large clutches as endlers do, so you're not going to make quite as much, but you do make more money from them because they are more sought after, and you don't get as many at a time, so they're not as frequently brought around. Operational costs between a light, a pump, an air pump, of course, is what I mean by that, and your heater. Those are the 3 electrical components that you're going to be running. That's going to run you probably $15 a month, depending on where you're at and what your costs for electricity are. It's going to cost you about $15. For water, recommend 2 to 3 a day, or 2 to 3 water changes a week. Keep the water clean. Keep them in fresh water at all times if you want the best yields on your fry. That's going to run you about $5 a month. You're going to spend about $20 without food costs. We are fortunate enough, we have a guy that we buy our food from. He makes it himself. We get a pound of flake food for about $10. That'll last us quite some time. Even though we do heavy feedings for these guys because there's so many fries, we make sure that we have enough on hand. So the food itself doesn't cost us a ton of money, because that bag will last us, for just this tank alone, probably about 6 months. Maybe a little bit longer. It's not even $1 a month to feed these guys, really. I mean, we'll probably get close to a year out of a pound bag of flake food from us. So I mean, it's not even $1 a month to feed these guys, which is extremely cheap. Okay. I mean, overall, you can figure between $20 to $25 to run your tank per month. Okay. Now, if you're doing $100 per month in fish, if you get it set up right, you get spawning set up right, you can sell about $25 worth a week, which essentially is 25 fish. Not really hard to do once you get really, really going and get, you know, everything dialed in the way it needs to be dialed in. $25 a week. 1 week you've covered all of your monthly expenses, the rest is profit, right? And then if you go to the swaps and the auctions and things like that, you can make a little bit more money. So out of like I said, about 6 months, you can average about $1,000. You're making like $150 a month roughly, okay? A little over $150 a month. But even still, at $150 a month, it's not enough for you to survive off of, but it is enough for you to get almost a complete 55-gallon setup going, or even a couple of 20-gallon setups, and you can slowly expand that way, which is kind of the purpose of getting into breeding for profit, right? You want to have some money that you can stash away for additional costs, and then you want to have enough money to cover your hobby. So that's kind of the way it works out. We have sold fish to our local fish store before. Like I said, it depends on what type of fish it is, how common it is, how popular in their store it is. The prices are going to vary from store to store to store, location to location, you know. And that's something you'll have to look into yourself to see exactly what would be a very good component for you to add. Try to get as many things breeding in one tank as you can. Bristlenose and Endlers go really well together. Bristlenose and Guppies go really well together. Plecos in general go pretty well with those. Hornwort doesn't sell for very much, but it grows extremely quickly. You can usually get a couple bucks per clump out of that. Java Moss tends to grow pretty well. You can get $3 to $4 for a clump of that. So I mean, if you're gonna sell your plants as well, those are two options, and you'll get a few extra dollars a month for those too. So it takes about a month to get a decent sized clump. You know, it's not something that grows extremely quickly, but it's a little bit, you know, a little bit extra money in your pocket when you're going in and trimming out, and you can also hang on to it and get it spread and propagated into your other tanks as well. That's another option too, so you don't have to spend more money on plants. Because to get the plants themselves, you're probably going to be spending like another 20, 25 bucks to get it going. Hornwort in a store, normally it's like $5 for a decent sized plant. Water Sprite, same thing, about $5. Java Moss is a little more expensive for like a little clump. It's usually like $4 or $5. Java Moss is a little more expensive because no one in the hobby, no one outside of the hobby really sells Java Moss. This comes from mostly hobbyists. So because it's hobbyists taking care of it and supplying it, there's a little more demand versus supply, and you get a little more money out of it. But when you see it in your local fish store, it also costs a little more money too. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the basics of how to breed for profit. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop them in the box below. I will do my best to answer the questions. I've been a little tied up lately. I haven't been able to get on as much as I'd like to, but I do plan on being a lot more active on the channel in terms of getting comments and questions answered. Comments, I don't tend to reply to. If I hear thank you or awesome job or things like that, know that I appreciate it more than I can even say. It's extremely appreciated, and I'm thankful every day that I can do this. And I appreciate everyone that comes to the channel and watches. The whole focus of the channel is to get more people into the hobby. Breeding is one way, you know, breeding for profit's another way. Going over the losses that we have and just kind of setups that we have and the way that we do things is another way. Just to show you, it can be intimidating, but once you get into it, it can be highly beneficial. Having a fish room by itself, or even just a couple fish tanks, is extremely relaxing when they're running. You know, we've got close to 40 tanks going right now, and you can spend 3-4 hours down here and not realize how much time you spent down here. It goes by very quickly, and it's extremely peaceful, and it's something that's really easy to do. You know, as long as you put in a little bit of work, it takes some time. It's not difficult to do. It just takes time, you know. It's a lot of work, but it's easy work. Changing out water, you know, making sure the filters are cleaned up, making sure you feed your fish. It's all simple things to do. Getting plants, planting them in your tank, even if they're fake plants, cycling a tank. These are all relatively simple things to do. So definitely something to keep in mind if you aren't into the hobby yet and you're stressed out, or you feel that, you know, you could definitely do with something in your life. this is the perfect solution. It's a very cheap way to get into something that's relaxing and zenful, and just makes you feel better because you can see the fruit of your labor. You know, I mean, there's tons of fish in here. We started off with 4 fish. There's 100 fish in here. Where else can you say you get that kind of a reward or that kind of a payoff? You know, so just a little food for thought. If you're not into the hobby, something to consider. Again, I appreciate every viewer we have. Any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free, drop them in the box below. If you guys haven't already, do us a huge favor, hit that like, subscribe, and share button. Let's get as many people in the hobby as we can. The more the merrier, and the better that, you know, the breeds of fish that we have will be. The strains will become a lot more beneficial and clear and just stronger as people breed them up. So that's something to keep in mind as well. We're trying to get as many people as we can into the hobby. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, happy fish keeping.